That's the beautiful thing about injuries, as you know, is like, man, adversity introduced a man to himself. Adversity is the best thing because you gain so much perspective. For you and I both to have gone through the injuries we had. Like, dude, think about, I don't know about you. Here's a question for you. Where do you think you would be as a man right now if life had worked out exactly how you wanted it to? Say you're in the NFL and you're 6 years in right now and you're worth $40 million. Do you think much would have changed for you?
Oh, that's a good, deep question. Would much have changed? I think I learned a lot about myself during that time. I look back to who I was when I was in college, to the things I cared about, to a lot of it. And I sometimes you look back and you're like not proud of, where you were mentally at that point, man. I remember when I was in college just caring so much what people thought about me, like just caring so much about, I felt like almost part of me wanted to play in the NFL because I wanted people to say that I played in the NFL. You know what I mean? Like I almost felt like a revert. And since that process went on and since going through that, I've matured a lot because you go through that time. I mean, man, there was a time when like, I didn't even want to talk about football, right? Like I got out of football when I retired from football. I got into politics. Yeah. I wanted nothing to do with football because I didn't want to talk about it. I was embarrassed. And then I've learned through this time to, like you just said, be really proud of your story. And like my story is unique, and I was an All-American at 2 different schools. I took a year off. I was at the Senior Bowl and then retired from football. Like it's like makes no sense. But that's my story, and it's all led me to this point right here. Like I really think that part of my, I think if you ask everyone who knows me, the one thing they may say about me and agree on is that I work hard. Like that's the one thing. You may love me, hate me, but they'll all agree that I work hard. And I think a lot of that comes from also not making it in the NFL. And it's like, I have this added motivation and fuel of, I didn't play in the NFL, and I'm now in this college football media game. Like, I don't have the advantage of playing in the NFL. I don't have any of that. I heard Kirk Herbstreit talk about it. Like, Kirk Herbstreit talked about how, like, his differentiator is going to be how he works because he didn't have an NFL career, right? Like, it's not like Tony Romo. It's not like, and you're similar. Like, you played in the NFL, but you weren't an NFL superstar. So I really think a lot of good came from that situation, and it's the old story of you've heard the story of the Chinese farmer.
Yeah.
It's a great one, and just to summarize, it's basically the moral of the story is that you never know if something that happens to you in life is good or bad because you don't know how it's going to impact the rest of your life.
Right.
And I look back on that time and not playing the NFL, and I really view it as a positive because it's led me to this point now with everything going on and the relationships I have now. And on top of your point, Jake, also about how you don't know it's going to impact the rest of your life is I sometimes think like maybe me not playing the NFL was because something really bad would have happened if I played in the NFL, or if I would have played 2 years, maybe I was going to have a bigger injury. Maybe like you just don't know what was going to happen if that actually played out. Maybe if you played another year in the NFL, you were going to have a different major injury that would have impacted the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And you just don't know that. So it's a loaded question on how I view that time, but there's without a doubt has led me to this point today, which I'm proud of.
I think you said a lot of great stuff there, man. It's part of the attraction of the NFL is you get to say you played in the NFL, which is just like external validation. And like, no doubt. Me, like that was a younger version of me that sought that out. And it usually takes people a long time to figure out how like fleeting that is. Like there's this saying that when you're 18 years old, you think everybody's talking about you.
I love this.
When you're 40, you say, well, I don't really give a shit what anyone's saying. And then when you're 60, you realize everyone was so consumed with themselves. No one was thinking about you anyways, So it takes some time. So through that adversity, you can kind of learn that it's an accelerated learning process. I sometimes think I'm like, man, the beautiful gifts of like being humbled by life is just like more precious than gold. And I'm not, money matters, and like I'll never discredit that. Like having a good career, I believe that plays a value, but like I do believe that there's principles that are more valuable than gold. That's one. I'm sitting here engaged right now. Like, man, where would my ego be if everything went my way? I don't think anyone would be able to tell me shit, you know, but like, thankfully it didn't. Thankfully I got to learn that lesson. Like, you know, where would I be? Eventually I was going to retire from football. How hard would that have been after 15 years to pivot? Would I have been able to pivot? Like I got introduced to it a little bit early. So now I have my whole life ahead of me. It's funny how like that dance goes back and forth and how like the Chinese farmer in the moment an injury's bad. With time, you get the choice to say, oh, wait, I think it's actually good. It worked to my favor.
Yeah, no, man. One of my favorite things about you is how intellectually like deep you get in conversation and how you think things through at a high level. And you have great wisdom and always like, I always love bouncing things off you because I know you're going to think about it in a way that's different than most people. So I always love your insight on that kind of stuff. You know, it's funny on the money thing, like, a lot of times now, you know, we both now in our media careers, like we're at points where, you know, we're not making NFL money, but like we have real careers and like make real money doing this stuff. And I always come back to, you know, like even the other day I was looking at a really nice apartment and in Philadelphia where I live. And it was like really nice, like more than I'd ever spent in my life on an apartment, you know, great view of the city, balconies, like all this stuff. And I'm like sitting there and I'm like, man, I really want to live in a nice spot. Like that's what I want. And then I started thinking to myself, do I really want to live in a nice spot or do I want other people to know I live in a nice spot? And it isn't so true. And I'm thinking like, man, my spot's great right now. Like, I have a great spot. Like, why am I going to double my rent payment? For like, and it's just, I love Gary Vaynerchuk. I know people say what you want about him. I just love his messages about that stuff. He's so true. And it made me about so much of what you want in life is about external validation. And if you can really just be happy with yourself, so much of the other stuff takes care of itself.